Marcus Aurelius was known for his clarity of thought and action. He was the Stoic emperor who strengthened the mentality of thinking clearly and rationally. He held one of the most powerful positions in the world at that time, and although he had access to practically every desire, he opted for a life based on justice and equality throughout his rule. His dedication to fairness and virtue marked his time in power. While serving as emperor, Marcus Aurelius also found time to create a collection of personal writings that later became known as Meditations. This work has become one of the most influential texts in the history of philosophy. In the pages of the Meditations, he shared valuable guidance on personal improvement, with an emphasis on the importance of adopting a broader view of life and carrying out a critical analysis of one's own judgment and interactions with others. As the leader of a powerful empire that went through several wars during his rule, Marcus Aurelius used his own historical philosophy to put aside stress and worries and be the best and most reliable leader he could be. Stoicism is an ancient and incredibly famous philosophy which, as well as a theory, is also a truly inspiring way of thinking and living. The Stoic philosophers held the firm belief that acting in accordance with virtue was the way to achieve personal happiness, and that such conduct required well-founded judgment and logical thinking. With this in mind, in this video, we will explore 5 valuable lessons that will help you improve your capacity for clear thinking, based on the teachings of Marcus Aurelius. We'll go deeper into understanding how to develop a rational mind and thus adopt virtuous behavior. But before we continue with this incredible knowledge of Stoicism, make sure you're already subscribed to the channel, so you don't miss out on any quality content that could change your life. 1. Keep the virtues in mind. To quote Marcus Aurelius, "Dig deep within yourself, for there is a fountain of goodness always ready to flow." If we continue to explore this concept, we can understand that a virtue refers to a remarkable quality of character, in other words, a morally correct way of acting. This ethical behavior not only brings benefits to you and your close circle, but, on a broader scale, contributes to the common good. The Stoics believed in a universe where all things and beings are interconnected, forming a web of connections that transcends the individual. By following the principles of Stoicism, an approach that prioritizes the common good, we find a deep connection between what is beneficial for society and what is beneficial for the individual. The Stoics held with conviction that the wisest people were those who dedicated themselves to the collective benefit, acting in accordance with virtue. Within this philosophy, virtue was the key to a meaningful life, and acting contrary to it was essentially considered a reflection of a lack of knowledge and understanding. Therefore, the Stoics saw the pursuit of virtue as a path to self-development and, together, a means of contributing to the well-being of society. By choosing to live in accordance with ethical principles, they not only improved their own lives, but also helped to build a more just and compassionate community. Ultimately, this approach reinforces the intrinsic link between self-development and collective benefit, demonstrating how the pursuit of wisdom and virtue can be a deeply rewarding journey for both the individual and society at large. When life's journey takes you down unexpected paths, virtues can serve as a compass, pointing the way forward and keeping you firmly anchored. This is why those who incorporate these virtues into their lives usually radiate calm and serenity. To embrace virtue, it is essential to understand the 4 cornerstones of Stoicism: wisdom, justice, self-control, and courage. For the Stoics, wisdom is like a lantern that illuminates the path of morality. It enables a person to discern between what is good, bad, neutral, and in between, freeing them from the yoke of emotions. The mind must work clearly and logically, seeking the morally correct answer in the midst of complex dilemmas. When faced with 2 options at a crossroads, wisdom allows one to examine both carefully. The virtue of justice derived from wisdom implies doing what is right and equitable both for others and for oneself. The Stoics see this virtue as a fundamental commitment, a duty that extends to ourselves, our fellow human beings, and society as a whole. It is like a solid foundation that supports the edifice of morality. The virtue of courage is like a beacon shining in the darkness of fear. It lies in the ability to move forward, facing our fears, and to do what is necessary and beneficial, even when success is uncertain. Courage does not imply extinguishing fear, desire, or anxiety, but rather making the decision to act and take steps forward, despite the persistent presence of these emotions. It is the determination to move forward, regardless of the fear, passion, and anxiety that may arise. Finally, the virtue of temperance, also known as moderation, implies remaining balanced between two extremes, ensuring that we never fall into the temptation of excess or deprivation. In essence, temperance often manifests itself as the ability to exercise self-control and discipline. In the words of Marcus Aurelius, what sets us apart from animals is our ability to restrain our impulses when necessary. Temperance plays a crucial role in ensuring our long-term well-being, even if it means postponing immediate gratification for the sake of future benefits. Let's take a simple example like chocolate bars. Devouring several chocolate bars in one go may satisfy a momentary craving, but it's bad for your health and, in some cases, even your mood. It is therefore essential to practice self-control and stop after the first few bites. The exercise of temperance is largely guided by wisdom. Only by thinking discerningly can you determine how much of something is enough before self-regulating. The Stoics divided all possible things and actions in the world into three categories: good things, bad things, and neutral things. They always emphasized the importance of seeking what is good, avoiding what is bad, and choosing neutral things as appropriate. Acting in disagreement with these virtues is what gives rise to evil. For example, when someone steals, disrespects, acts impulsively, or harms another person, they are contributing to the presence of evil. When you act in accordance with these virtues, you avoid both good and evil. Even in neutral actions such as taking a walk, these simple principles of life not only shape you into a more virtuous person, but also into someone with a serene spirit. When you live according to the virtues, you always follow the path of good and make rational decisions. According to the Stoics, this behavior creates a calm mind. 2. Exercise duality of control. One of the precious lessons offered by Stoic philosophy is the practice of the principle of the dichotomy of control. In the words of Marcus Aurelius, you have power over your mind, but not over events. Understand this, and you will find strength. The dichotomy of control invites us to make a clear distinction between what is within our power and what is beyond our reach. It is a principle that encourages us to approach life with discernment, recognizing the areas in which we have influence and those in which we do not. Understanding this dichotomy is fundamental to developing a resilient and wise mindset. After all, events such as the weather, traffic, and other people's opinions are categorically out of our control. No matter how strongly we wish to change these circumstances, our ability to do so is limited. Therefore, investing excessive energy and worry in aspects that we cannot change is a source of unnecessary suffering. However, where we do have control is over our own mind, our choices, and our reactions to external events. This means that we can direct our efforts and attention to cultivating virtues such as courage, wisdom, and serenity, which are qualities that directly influence the way we face life's challenges. The dichotomy of control offers us a valuable compass for navigating the often turbulent waters of existence, enabling us to find strength and tranquility by recognizing and embracing the distinction between what we can shape and what we must accept. However, how you choose to dress, when you decide to go out, and who you decide to relate to is entirely in your hands. So when faced with situations that affect your emotions, ask yourself the question, what is within my control? Everything you can influence is an opportunity to act. What is beyond your control must be accepted and embraced without letting it disturb your peace of mind. The ability to discern between these spheres and act accordingly can instantly bring clarity to your mind. A crucial element in understanding the dichotomy of control is the concept of amor fati, which can be translated as love of fate. When you adopt this mindset, embracing life and all its vicissitudes, you find a continuous source of love for life itself. Understand that you don't have the power to escape fate or to shape circumstances that are beyond your control, but you do have the choice to love your life unconditionally, no matter what fate has in store for you. Imagine that you have wanted a job for years, but unfortunately you are rejected. Your first reaction is discouragement, feeling that all hope has faded. At that moment, embracing fate may seem like an impossible task. However, this perspective is limited. Instead of seeing the lack of success as an absolute failure, look at the reasons that led to this outcome and turn them into an opportunity to progress. When we face the frustration of not winning a desired job, it is essential to examine the reasons behind this outcome and adopt a perspective that promotes growth and self-development. Stoic philosophy invites us to practice self-reliance, recognizing that in many cases the reasons for not achieving our goals may be intrinsic, that is related to personal flaws that are within our power to correct. In this scenario, instead of giving in to hopelessness or self-reproach, we can see this experience as an opportunity for growth. Identifying the shortcomings that may have contributed to not getting the job we want allows us to actively work on these areas, acquire new skills, and prepare to try again at the next similar opportunity, but in a more capable way. On the other hand, the dichotomy of Stoic control also teaches us to discern between what is within our control and what is not. If the reason for not getting the job we wanted was an external factor, such as nepotism or personal conflicts with someone on the selection team, it was beyond our control. In these cases, it's vital to recognize that the real opportunity was never available, and no matter how hard we tried, the influence we exerted was limited. In this context, Stoic philosophy teaches us to calmly accept what we cannot change, and not to lament something that was never within our reach. Instead, we can direct our energy towards areas where we can effectively shape our destiny, learning from past experiences and moving forward with a resilient mindset, prepared for future challenges. Accepting destiny involves releasing dependence on rigid results and external metrics of success. If your dream is to become a writer, for example, and you measure your success based on the sales of your book, you are allowing your success to be dictated by the publishing market. However, if you choose to measure your success based on your satisfaction with the finished work or the dedication you put into it, you will be in charge of your own success. Be sure to do your best to pursue your dreams, but always remember that achieving them may not be guaranteed, and be ready to accept this reality from the outset. By focusing our efforts only on what is within our control and committing ourselves to embracing what doesn't unfold precisely as we planned, we will be able to maintain an unshakable serenity, no matter what obstacles come our way, whatever happens. 3. Control your emotions. The importance of mastering our emotions, as suggested by Marco Aurelio, lies in the balance and clarity that this skill provides. Avoiding being hypocritical, self-centered, or irritable reminds us of the need not to be slaves to our emotional impulses. Although emotions are legitimate parts of our human experience, acting impulsively and guided by them can impair our judgment. Mastering our emotions doesn't mean stifling them, but rather recognizing, understanding, and directing them in a constructive way. This enables us to make wiser decisions, respond to challenges calmly, and maintain more harmonious relationships. Marco Aurelio's message therefore encourages us to seek the wisdom to balance our emotions with rationality, promoting a more conscious and meaningful life. If you want to maintain clear thinking at all times, a fundamental skill to improve is controlling your emotions. Marco Aurelio warns us about how anger, in particular, can do more harm than good. Controlling emotions doesn't mean suppressing them or pretending they don't exist. For example, when betrayal arouses intense anger, denying its presence or acting as if everything is fine is not the solution. Anger persists no matter how much we hide it. The key is to recognize it and learn to deal with it in a healthy way. Instead of repressing emotions like anger, Stoicism teaches us to redirect them. Therefore, when anger arises, it is beneficial to question how you can use it constructively. Ask yourself whether expressing anger through shouting will improve your situation or make it worse, whether it will benefit the person who hurt you. Evaluate your goals and consider the usefulness of your actions. If not, look for productive ways to release the anger. For example, it may be more effective to talk calmly with the person who hurt you, share your feelings, and try to understand their point of view. Other options include keeping a diary, practicing physical activities, playing video games, reading a book, or any activity that helps you deal with your emotions in a constructive way. Let's explore another scenario: anxiety or fear. These challenging emotions cannot simply be suppressed, but have the potential to be redirected in a constructive way. Instead of allowing anxiety to paralyze you, you can use it as an incentive to tackle challenges that make you anxious. For example, if you're afraid of asking your boss for a raise, instead of avoiding confrontation or trying to ignore the fear, you can recognize it as a sign that you're about to step out of your comfort zone and use it as a motivating force. In this way, anxiety becomes an ally that pushes you to overcome challenges and embrace growth opportunities with courage and determination, rather than an insurmountable obstacle. Stoic philosophy reminds us that our emotions can be allies on the path towards self-development and success. On the contrary, fear can be channeled in a healthy way and surprisingly can be useful. For example, fear leads you to anticipate what might go wrong, which in turn leads you to consider all the possible questions your boss might ask and the counter-arguments you might hear. This preparation allows you to form a plan to deal with each possible scenario. However, the most important aspect is that fear offers a positive motivation to move forward, to challenge yourself and grow as an individual, to prove to yourself that you are capable, to take the step forward not in spite of fear but partly because of it. In this scenario, you can live with the anxiety and think, it's amazing that I'm trying this anyway. When you master the redirection of your intense emotions, you will become someone who is serene, regardless of the emotions you experience. They won't impair your ability to think rationally and make intelligent decisions. Emotional control is the key to a calmer mind. If you're still struggling with controlling your emotions, I've left a link in the first comment to shield your mind, just as the Stoics did, to avoid suffering and be able to think clearly. 4. Always consider the bigger picture. Marcus Aurelius says how beautifully Plato put it, whenever you want to talk about people, it's best to look from above and see everything at once. Cultivating a broader view is an invaluable step in the quest for mental clarity and wisdom. As we navigate our journey through life, we often feel caught up and overwhelmed by the complexity of the events and challenges unfolding before us. Every obstacle, no matter how small, seems to gain gigantic proportions when we are immersed in it. It's as if we're at the center of a small crowd, where even the smallest commotion and turmoil seem immense. However, if we take a few steps to the side and change our perspective, the scene unfolds in a surprising way, revealing a much broader and more complex panorama. This enables us to gain a more holistic view, where challenges that once seemed overwhelming can find their proper place, becoming manageable components in our journey. Thus, when we decide to take a step back and contemplate the world in its entirety, including our own lives, we realize how insignificant are the concerns that normally overwhelm us. Our world, with all its complexities, is tiny compared to the vastness of the universe. As we broaden our perspective, we become aware of how limited our subjective experience is in relation to the breadth of existence. We often lose sight of the fact that our individual experiences and perspectives are not the only ones that should be taken into account. Imagine someone who, during childhood, was bitten by a dog and carries with them a negative memory of that event. This person may not understand or accept the idea that for other people dogs are wonderful and useful pets. However, it is only when we are willing to consciously reflect on the possibility of different experiences that we are able to see beyond our own perspective. At certain times, it's essential to take a step back and ask ourselves what we're neglecting or letting go unnoticed. This practice can prove incredibly valuable in various situations. Consider, for example, the dilemma of deciding whether to keep your current job or pursue a new opportunity that has recently arisen in another company. This choice can seem challenging, especially if there are doubts about your satisfaction in the new working environment. You may be satisfied with your current job and not want to take on the additional responsibilities that a promotion would bring. At the same time, you recognize the financial benefits that such a rise would bring, and this can lead to a feeling of being trapped. However, it's worth considering a wider range of possibilities. Have you explored the idea of a complete move into a different field, or perhaps looking for an additional source of income that would allow you to earn money in your spare time while keeping your current job? An effective strategy for redirecting your focus and finding more satisfaction in your daily activities is to explore hobbies. Dedicating part of your time to activities that bring you genuine joy can provide a healthy balance to those tasks you may not enjoy as much. The world is full of options that often remain unknown until we decide to explore them. By broadening your horizon and considering the bigger picture of life, rather than fixating only on what's immediately in front of you, you can gain a new perspective and clarity for making decisions that impact your well-being and pursuit of happiness. Contemplating the big picture not only helps you assess what is significant, but is also fundamental when forging a solid opinion. To form an accurate judgment, it is essential to understand all aspects and consider all alternatives related to a given situation. Therefore, the all-encompassing view is essential in order to discern correctly. In addition, taking a step back implies moving away from your own perspectives and prejudices which can be a journey of self-discovery. Temporarily, letting go of your personal desires allows you to reconnect with the people around you and reaffirm your commitment to collective well-being. Sometimes, in the heat of the moment, attitudes like throwing garbage in the street can seem insignificant. However, by taking a step back and contemplating the global scenario, reflecting on the possibility of everyone following the same behavior, you begin to understand the dimension of your action in relation to the impact on the world. In this way, you realize that your momentary desire to throw garbage in the street is tiny compared to the well-being of the planet and society as a whole, reinforcing the importance of individual responsibility in the search for a more sustainable and harmonious world. For Stoics, the belief that everything in the world is connected is fundamental, and they argue that the general well-being of the world has a direct impact on their own well-being. Therefore, taking a step back and considering the whole picture of the world, rather than just focusing on your personal life, plays an extremely important role when you are faced with choices, difficulties, problems, or life changes. You have the opportunity to ask yourself some questions, either in the heat of the moment or later, perhaps when you're reflecting on your day. It could be during a quiet walk or while writing in your diary, a practice that Marcus Aurelius often adopted. Some of the most frequent questions to ask include: what are the possible long-term consequences of my decision or action? How will my choices today affect my future? It's interesting to consider how someone with a different view might see the situation. Is there someone who has faced similar circumstances or shares similar goals to me, who could offer me a valuable perspective to guide my decision or action? Will this choice have an impact on my own quality of life? What about the well-being of those around me? Have I left out any alternatives without considering them in my analysis? 5. Choose not to be harmed. Marco Aurelio says, "Choose not to be harmed and you will not feel harmed." Stoicism teaches us to master our perceptions, profoundly transforming our relationship with the world. In our daily lives, we tend to judge everything. Events, people, and places are labeled as good, bad, beautiful, or boring. However, this habit of constant evaluation can be exhausting and take us away from wholeness. Stoicism invites us to a more conscious approach, in which we question our judgments, recognizing that they often don't reflect objective reality. This allows us to develop a deeper understanding of life, cultivate a balanced and resilient mindset in the face of challenges, and ultimately achieve a lasting sense of contentment. Mastering our perceptions according to Stoicism helps us to navigate life with clarity, appreciating the richness and complexity of the world. Evaluating every interaction during an especially challenging day as terrible can further aggravate the perspective of the day itself. When you rate a party as dull, it becomes the most boring point of your week. We often let our first impressions of things be shaped by our emotions, which often means that these impressions are not entirely rational. In addition, our inclination to judge every moment of our lives often leads us to use metaphors and exaggerations that make situations worse than they really are. For example, if someone ends a relationship, they might say that their ex broke their heart, instead of recognizing that their ex's feelings have changed. This way of speaking, or rather thinking, directly influences your emotions. What makes you feel bad is not the event itself, but the perspective you unconsciously choose to adopt. As Epictetus observed, people are not disturbed by things, but by the interpretation they make of them. Stoic philosophy offers a remarkable perspective by encouraging people to approach encounters and actions with an attitude of caution and reflection. This involves challenging the initial judgments we make and going beyond them, exploring the ability to overcome our first impulses and assess situations with a more optimistic and considered perspective. When we apply this principle in practice, we are able to transform our relationship with the world around us. For example, we can reconsider that party that initially seemed boring as an opportunity to explore a new place, meet interesting people, and maybe even learn something new. This practice of not immediately judging based on emotional impulses becomes a valuable way of improving our perception of life. By cultivating the ability to question our first impressions and seek a deeper understanding of situations, we not only expand our repertoire of experiences, but also develop a more open and flexible mindset. This allows us to find opportunities and meaning, even in circumstances that initially seem uninteresting or challenging, contributing to an enrichment of our personal journey. Stoicism therefore invites us to adopt a more careful and reflective approach to encounters and actions, allowing us to discover the hidden richness and potential in our daily lives. Whenever you think about something, try asking yourself, is this logical? Based on what criteria am I forming my opinion? Is there a more constructive and positive way of interpreting this? Marco Aurelio pointed out that harm only materializes if you define it as such. This implies that any difficult experience you face will seem more challenging and damaging as you see it in this way. The ability to determine the impact of certain situations on you is entirely in your hands. Stoics also encourage viewing adversities as opportunities or sources of growth, seeing them as exercises to improve your perspective throughout life. A principle called turning the obstacle upside down exemplifies the idea of seeing obstacles as transformative challenges. Marcus Aurelius teaches us that often, what seems to be an obstacle to our action can actually be the very action we seek. Instead of overjudging everything we encounter, take a moment to look at things objectively. You may be surprised to discover that life is simpler and clearer than you imagined. Every situation can be interpreted positively or negatively. By adjusting your mindset, you'll realize that the upheavals of the past no longer affect you in the same way, making your journey through life much smoother. Taking time to reflect deeply on all aspects of the world offers a valuable opportunity for self-knowledge and a clearer understanding of your actions, thoughts, life, and decisions. This process of self-knowledge is not only an individual journey, but also a source of significant contribution to the well-being of the world as a whole. When you give yourself over to contemplating the global panorama, you acquire a broader and more enriching perspective, which clears your mind of unnecessary limitations, prejudices, and uncertainties. This expansion of horizons, resulting from reflection, not only promotes your own personal growth, but also enables you to positively influence the world around you. By better understanding the complexity of life and human relationships, you become a more conscious and effective agent of change. Thus, the practice of reflection not only benefits you, but also contributes to a more conscious, harmonious, and sustainable environment, strengthening the link between self-knowledge and the well-being of the world. Self-knowledge is essential for Stoicism, and it needs to be done through the discovery of purpose. To discover your purpose, click on the video on the screen and watch it right now.